Amul Chelvi.
பொட்டது வெய் காலி பண்ணாத இப்ப நைட்ல வானா வெய்
Good evening, all. Is my voice audible?
Yes, Manoj.
Oh, okay. Thank you. And is the presentation visible? Can you all see the presentation I've shared just now?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, that's great. Okay, so let's start. So we are in the second session of corporate communication, so otherwise called as business communication. You have to bear with me because I cannot switch on the camera today. There is no like a problem with my camera, my laptop camera. I'll set it right by next week. So please excuse. Let's go on. Okay, so in our previous sessions, we were seeing about what is corporate communication, why is it necessary to have the clear, concise, and precise with guys. Please make sure no, you have all muted your audio because there will be a lag in the class. Please mute your audio. All the participants, please mute your audio. Okay. So last session, we had the discussion about, like what is corporate communication, the importance of the corporate communication, why it is necessary to have a clear, precise, and the task-oriented communication, and why it should be, like at all levels. That is how why the communication should flow in all the levels, and how does it help the the employees of the organization to coordinate with each other and work towards the single goal, that is the organizational goal. And what will happen if there is no proper communication? Then things and tasks would have been misunderstood in a very like a different way, and many things may go out of control, and half communication or miscommunication may lead to many problems in the organization, not only within the organization but outside the organization as well with the stakeholders. So that is there is always a necessary to have a clear complete communication. So whatever is the speaker is supposed to communicate with other person or communicate with one person, so it has to be a complete communication. So it has to be complete, not an incomplete one. And it has to be a clear one to make sure the receiver understands the communicator. The main idea of the communication is being transformed to the receiver, and it should be precise in the sense. So what is the need for that communication? So that has to be highlighted on the communication part. So that would be a reason to communicate, right? So it may be pinpointing one person's mistake, or giving an idea of how to do a skill tactfully, or whatever it is. So the main idea of the communication, so that has to be precisely mentioned in the communication. And we were seeing about the barriers to the communication. What are all the barriers for the communication? And we even saw about verbal and non-verbal communication. So yeah, those were the things, I think we have seen in the last session. Now, moving on. So this session we are going to see the other the types of communication, and a few components of communication. First, process of communication. So it's a process whereby information is encoded, channeled, and sent by a sender to a receiver via some medium. So that should be a medium to communicate, and it is a transformation, or the a transfer of transfer of the message from the sender to the receiver, and that is a medium or a channel to transfer that message. And after the receiver has got the information, there should be a feedback on the message. So we even saw why there is no need for a feedback after a communication has been done, so as to make sure the receiver has received the communication in a proper way. So all forms of communication require a sender, a channel, a message, a receiver, and a feedback. So the hindrance to the communication process is called as noise. So any form of hindrance. So it is in terms, it is represented as noise. It may be a hindrance from a person, or it may be a hindrance from the environmental conditions, or it may be a hindrance because of the technology. So whatever the reason may be, so it is considered as noise. Now, coming to the four components of communication. Sender. So what does this person do? He or she initiates the communication process by developing an idea into a message known as encoding. So this idea is being encoded. And channel, the sender transmits the message through a channel or a method of delivery. So by what channel, by what medium? That is either through email, or through phone conversation, or in-person conversation, or through messages, or even a text message for that matter. So any kind of a letter, whatever it is, what, through which medium or which channel the sender is trying to communicate with the receiver. And the third component is the receiver. The message then moves to the channel to the receiver who completes the communication process by interpreting and assigning meaning to the message. It's known as decoding. So the encoded information is being decoded when it is transferred to the receiver. And finally, feedback, because it is a critical component in the communication process, because it ensures message was properly received and interpreted. So these are the main four components of communication. Now, coming to types of communication, we have one way and two way. So these are all like very easy to understand. So we can like make it out, like it's very logical. Verbal and non-verbal, formal and informal, upward, downward, and lateral. So we are going to see about that. Interpersonal, intrapersonal, organizational, and mass communication. Let's start with one-way communication. So we all very well know like how one-way communication happens. Example is like weather report on television and like it's newspaper, because there is no feedback there. We don't know whether the receiver has like completely understood the message or not, completely received the message or not. So all the sender wants to do is like just like um, uh, entrust like all the information to the receiver. So not worrying about whether the receiver has received the message in the right way or in the complete way, or like no feedback is sought after. And billboard messages, so these things happen. Same, likewise, even in like corporate companies, even in companies, organizations, one-way communication happens. When autocratic leadership happens, like the leader will be like just communicating in one-way channel, that there will not be any feedback, or there will not be anything such that whether the receiver has the receivers or the subordinates or the teammates, whether they have understood the communication or not, so that would not be sought out. So it's completely a one-way communication. That is from the top management to the operational level or the middle level management, or from a leader to his or her subordinates or the followers. So it's completely one way. Okay, this communication involves the transfer of information in one direction only, that is from the sender to receiver, and there is no opportunity for the receiver to receive to give feedback to the sender. So when this can happen is when the time is limited for like performing a particular task. So there is an urgency in the organization and the time is limited, and the leader very well knows like how to go with the process, and the leader thinks that or assures that there is no need for like anyone's that is so the subordinates advice or idea on this, because this is already pre-planned. So if it is a pre-planned task or pre-planned goal or whatever to be achieved, and the time is very limited, then one-way communication is very much good. For example, giving boosting up the team of like players, whether it be like the cricket players or the volleyball players or whoever it is. So like boosting them with like one-way communication, because there is no need for any feedback there, because all the final objective is to win the game. So in that case, when the time is limited, and then the leader can go with one-way communication. Then is two-way communication, we will very well know. So it's a form of transmission in which both parties are involved. That is, they transmit the information. So this has also been referred to as interpersonal communication. So we usually see in like most of the companies communication between two groups or two teams, or between an individual and a group, or individual and an individual, and between top management and the like representatives of middle management, or between any level of management. So there is always two-way communication. So here feedback is sought. Why? Because there is no like enough time to come to a solution. If they are not like working on like to get a solution to a problem, so there is still time. So there is a possibility of two-way communication. Or If the top management wants to know, like, let the other level of management, they want to know, like, give them our idea, or know, like, to make them understand how the process should go on. In that case, to make sure whether they have received the communication in a proper way, so they have to ask the feedback, right? So in that way, two-way communication is possible. So verbal communication, so it can be either oral communication or written communication. Even written communication is not considered as verbal communication because we use vocabulary for that matter. So in this type, the professional uses language as a vehicle of communication. So oral communication happens when a face-to-face interaction between the sender and receiver happens. So example is making presentations, appearing for interviews, conducting the team meeting. So whatever it is, oral communication is, yeah, possible. And coming to written communication, the sender uses the written mode to transmit his or her messages. So writing reports and emails, and even know, like, uh, communicating through diagrammatic representations, like like pie charts and like bar diagrams. That is also can be considered as the written communication. So just by seeing those charts and like those bar diagrams and the graphical representation, so one can understood like the message it conveys. For example, sales report. So for not to understand the sales report for the past 1 month or for past 3 months, so you don't have to know since with the sales manager, and the sales manager doesn't have to explain no from the start to beginning. All he can or she can communicate no with the receiver is through these diagrammatic representation, the graphical representations. So showing it in as bar diagrams or not showing us as a pie chart. So that is also considered as a written communication. So now coming to non-verbal communication. So this doesn't happen frequently or no like in an organization. So non-verbal communications. So everything would be no like verbal communication. So non-verbal communication hardly it can happen in the organizations because no like sometimes it may be perceived in a wrong way. So the sender maybe no like the sender may be of no with a right intention. The sender may be no giving a non-verbal communication, showing a non-verbal no like way of no like transferring the message to the sender. But if the sender is not able to understand what the speaker or what the sender is no like communicating about, so things may be no like taken in a very wrong way, or things may be misunderstood, and then after that no like the process may go no very awful. So to avoid this, it's better to go with verbal communication itself. But let's see what non-verbal communication is. When a message is communicated without using a word, the process requires non-verbal cues to be transmitted and received. So facial expressions, posture, eye contact, walk, and a person's voice, sign language, body language, volume, pitch, voice modulation. So this usually happens, like when the leader tries to motivate the team members. So this kind of non-verbal communication you can identify, or you can know like see when a leader is trying to motivate the subordinates or motivate the team members. Or sometimes know if the sender or if the leader wants to know like imprint or implant the values of the team or the values of the organization in the minds of the subordinates, the team members, then these kind of non-verbal communication will happen along with the verbal communication. There is no verbal communication happens, and in between, through these non-verbal communication, the leader tries to express and know like assert by asserting few things to the receivers. Like facial expressions, you can see when like when the leader is speaking something so seriously, obviously the face will become serious. And the company has made profit and it's good, doing good, obviously. the facial expression would be, like little, relaxed, and the speaker's face would be relaxed, and like it would be in a a good mood. Then the posture, how the leader poses during the meetings, or poses during when the team meeting is happening, or no when the leader is like speaking with or giving orders to the subordinates. So the posture, that also matters. So relaxed posture means yeah. So the leader is no little cool at that moment, but now standing erectly, and speaking in a a very bass tone, it means no, the leader is no little serious about what he or she is speaking about. The eye contact. So when it happens, eye contact, when it happens is that the leader is giving the complete concentration on one particular thing. Then the eye contact happens. It means the leader is serious about what he or she is speaking. But if there is no eye contact happening, it means the leader is not so serious about what he or she is speaking to. And then walk. Sometimes no few leaders you can see in meetings or on the stage, they walk. They keep on talking, but they walk here and there from left to right. They walk and they speak. So why this is because they try to cover the complete audience in the auditorium. So from no walking from no one end to another end, they are trying to cover the audience, the complete audience in the meeting room or in the auditorium. So that's why the work happens. Then the person's voice. So very soft and very, very, very naive voice. So that communicates the total message differently. And very assertive voice and high pitch. That's what that gives a different mode to the information. Then body language, sign language. So sometimes few leaders you can see for expressing few things, they use sign languages. So and pitch and voice modulation. So voice modulation and pitch also matters. So if the leader wants to give so much importance to one particular thing, they usually stress those words. They give more intense depth to that words. They stress those words. So voice modulation and pitch, no. So that also you can identify in the leaders. So non-verbal communication, when it happens, is along with the verbal communication. And these non-verbal communication, yes, it is equally acceptable, and it is seen as more or less equal to the verbal communication. Then coming to formal communication. So formal is everything is being completely formal and official. That is it takes place through a formal channels of the organization structure along the lines of authority established by the management. So it follows a complete hierarchical model. So who's to communicate with whom, by what time, and the place is already fixed. So if it is a board meeting, it has to be conducted in this particular room only. Or if it is a team meeting, so it has to be conducted in this particular zone or location in the office. So all these are already decided, and who is going to communicate. That is the speaker of the team or speaker of that particular meeting. So that would be already decided. So completely everything goes in a very formal way. Such communications are generally in writing and may take any of the forms, that is policies, manuals, procedures and rule books, memoranda, official meetings and reports. And even written communication can also be seen as a formal way of communication. Then informal communication. So this happens whenever the workers have time other than working. So this arises out of all those channels of communication that fall outside the formal channels known as informal communication. So this does not follow lines of authority as is the case of formal communication. So this can happen anytime during the break time, or even sometimes when team meeting has happening and no one is speaking at that moment. There is a leader is not communicating with the team subordinates, and so casual talking is happening, and at restaurants, that is when colleagues goes to restaurants as groups, and so wherever within the organization or outside the organization, so informal communication will happen. So it's not that all the informal communication will be taken seriously, because the personal communication between any two persons, that's not required here. But if it is related to the the workflow, the process flow, or the organization, so their main message is it's so much related to the organization, then that's considered as the informal communication. Okay, so this is usually oral and may be covered even by simple glance, gesture, or smile or silence. So when talking, chatting, gossiping with friends and colleagues, so everything comes under informal communication. So grapevine. This is also a form of informal communication. Grapevine communication, it's a scenario or it's a situation where we don't know about where it has started, who has started it. It may be a rumor, or it may be a gossip, or it may be not a genuine information. So it must be some kind of a hype, so or a myth, whatever it is, but no idea about where it originated, who started it off, and uh, at which time, but what date, or at which time, through which channel. So nothing, nothing can be identified. So that's called grapevine communication. And best part is this formal, informal communication, grapevine communication will spread faster than the other modes of communication. It spreads very faster. This gossiping and these rumors, it spreads really faster. So it is an informal type of communication, and is also because it stretches throughout the organization in all directions, irrespective of the authority levels. It exists more at lower levels of the organization. So they usually it is seen at the operational levels in the organization. Thus grapevine spreads like fire, and it is not easy to trace the cause of such communication at times. So this is a a picture representation of how the gossip communication, the probability and the cluster will happen. So if you could see, if it is a single strand of communication, it means it completely follows the formal communication. This part, single strand. So from one level, it goes to the next level, and from there it goes to the next level. So this is completely formal communication. So this one is, these are it can be regarded as informal or formal communication, but depending upon the situation. So cluster communication again can be regarded as formal communication, because it follows a pattern. There's there is a pattern in it. So first, say uh, a team member A communicates something with B and G, and in return B communicates that with F and G. And D in return communicates with C, and C in return communicates with E. But there is no communication happening between these two groups, B group and D group. There is no communication happening between them. So B takes a communication to different group of people, that is different group of team members, and G communicates with different group of team members. Now consider this as D, C, and E as consider these people as the middle level management people, and B is the one who is in contact with the operational level people. So here you can see A can be considered as the top management, and top management communicates the information with B, who can be the production manager, and D can be the, say, the finance manager. So D, finance manager, communicates the same thing with C, who is a sales manager, And again, sales manager communicates with E, who can be a marketing manager. So here the communication spreads within the middle level manager. On the opposite, B, who is a production manager, communicates with G and F, who can be supervisors. So G stops the communication then and there, because no under G, so there is no subordinates, no like there. So G may be a junior supervisor and F may be a senior supervisor. So F then communicates with I and H, who may be, the senior, workers, in the department. And H again communicates with J, who can be J can be considered as a subordinate of H, a junior executive or a junior worker. So this is completely, the cluster communication can be taken as like formal way of communication. Okay, coming to here, probability. So here you can see again, there is a kind of, a mix of formal and informal communication, can be found here in probability. So B communicates with J and A and stops there. Then these three doesn't communicate with any other in the group. And here F communicates with L and K and they stop there. So this is one group, this is one group, and E, G, and I is another group. Whereas C and G are left out people in the group. So no one communicates with them, and C and G, does no one communicates. I mean, C and G don't communicate with the other members as well. So they are left aloof. So this is also can be considered as it may come under formal as well as informal, because like sometimes gossip also like what is rumors also expressed only in groups. C and G may be like a newcomers in the organization, or C and G may be like very close to the top management. So that's why these groups avoid C and G in their like probability communication. So that can also be possible. So if you take it in the formal way, so this works out. And if you take it in the informal way, again, it works out. But when coming to gossip, so now like A started it off. So A has initiated the communication and A is making sure the maximum team members know in the organization receives the information from A. In turn, these people again will communicate with all the persons they know in the organization. And D also does that, E also does that. So it spreads very fast, other than the formal way of communication and no other informal way of communications. So single strand, completely formal way. Cluster, yes, formal way. Probability, formal as well as informal way. And gossip, completely informal way. Now coming to the main difference between formal and informal. So formal always follows an official channel, but informal, unofficial channel. So channel, we have seen the medium of communication. So how it is being communicated, through mail or by words, or how it is done. And then planned and systematic. So that comes under formal, because they very well know what information has to be communicated. Whereas informal cuts across formal relationships. Then formal is goal and task oriented because result is seeken. But informal is individual goal and need oriented. Formal is impersonal and informal is personal and social. Formal is stable and rigid and informal is flexible and unstable. So why it is flexible? Because people may add on, pick up more stories to the actual rumor. There may be a rumor, and when it spreads to another person, when it gets transfers to another person, so that person will add his or her own story to the already existing story, and then communicates that to another person. So completely flexible and stretchable and completely unstable. Whereas formal is completely stable and rigid, because only that they know what to communicate, which is already planned, and no other interferences will happen. And formal is slow and structured, but informal is very fast and unstructured. And formal is authentic, little chance of distortion. So we know very well know like from where it started. Informal communication. Who initiated the communication? Who initiated the message? From where it started. But in informal, this is non-authentic and no like bigger chance of distortion is there because we don't know where it all started, who started it. Okay, then is the upward communication. So in this process, information flowing from the lower levels of the hierarchy to the upper levels. That is from the operational level to the middle management and from the middle management to the top management. Or sometimes directly from the operational level management to the top level management. So that is also possible. The function of upward communication is to send information, suggestions, complaints, and grievances of lower level workers to the managers above. So upward is no like completely the ulta of hierarchy. So even from no the lower level, that is the operational level, information can be communicated no to the top level management. Then coming to downward communication, it's a first place flows downwards. All information in this medium is usually in the form of instructions, directions, and orders. So this direction of communication strengthens and the authoritarian structure of the organization. So this can be considered as the one-way communication, whereas upward can be considered as the two-way communication because there will be a feedback on it, right? So if the operational level workers know, like say something, inform something to the top level management, there would be a feedback on it. So the management will reply back with no, whether with an yes or a no, whatever it is, or they have to wait for some time. Whatever no the answer is, there would be a feedback. There would be a reply. So upward communication is a two-way communication, whereas downward communication is a one-way communication. Because no, it gives the complete authoritarian status to the communicator, to the sender. So here no feedback is sought and thereafter. Then coming to lateral or horizontal communication. So this happens no like everyone in the organization no is given the given equal and same chance to know like come up with their ideas and their thoughts. So this type of communication takes place between persons at the same level or working under the same executive. And a main use of this is to maintain coordination and review activities assigned to various subordinates. So everyone in the team communicates with everyone, and everyone in the organization, that is all the levels, communicate with all the levels. So this is lateral or horizontal communication. So this is the like the most happening trend right now in the organizations because hardly know like very few I mean other than the government organizations, very few follow the like the hierarchical level of like model or hierarchical level of communication. It is from the downward communication. But when coming to know like the corporates and IT companies and like many production companies, like they have like taken this trend, that is the lateral horizontal communication, where everyone can communicate with everyone regarding the overall process. Okay, so then is the interpersonal communication. So it is an exchange of information between two or more people. So it's process by which people exchange information, feelings, and meaning through verbal and non-verbal messages. So interpersonal, that is between persons, whichever position they belong to or whichever designation they have, whichever role they perform in the organization, doesn't matter. So it happens between two or more persons. Whereas intrapersonal communication, it takes place within one's own self because this implies individual reflection, contemplation, and meditation. Because while taking up a decision, whether it's our personal decision or a professional decision or whatever it is, or a social decision, So intrapersonal communication, no, it usually happens, no, in human beings. So whether it is okay or not, whether it is right or not, whether I can, no, like do it or not, whether it is necessary or not, and the mind and heart, no, they always, no, like fight with each other. So mind is something, no, like which calculates everything and, no, like gives you an idea about how to, like go with things. Whereas heart is something, like which gives you the ethical way of, like doing things. So that is the difference, no? Like that's where the intrapersonal communication happens. Your heart says something and your mind says some other thing, which is completely contradictory. So the first voice you hear is your heart, and then comes your mind. So heart is always, no, like right, and, no, like it's always ethical. It thinks ethically, whereas mind is always calculative, and it doesn't show, no, like ethics sometimes. So that's where the intrapersonal communication happens. So how it affects an employee in the organization, this intrapersonal conflict or communication, how it affects a person in the organization. Is that person, no, like don't come up with, no, like the ideas, or, no, like or whatever, no, like this person want to communicate. So this person is completely, like acts as an introvert, not as an, but an introvert. This person becomes completely an introvert, and doesn't show up, no, like the skills or whatever, no, like this person is actually, like having. So intrapersonal communication, so that has to be, like treated in a very best way, so that any person in the organization can, like open up and speak up. And then is the total organizational communication. So it's a process by which activities of a society are collected and coordinated to reach the goals of both individuals and the collective group. And it is a subfield of general communication studies and is often a component of effective management in the workplace environment. So generally speaking, organizational communication, if you know, like if you have want to do like a case study on the organization, you can see almost all type of communication being followed in the organization, top to bottom and bottom to top, and the horizontal and lateral will happen, and grapevine communication will be there, formal communication will be there. So everything, almost all types of, like communication you can, observe. So collecting all this, no, like including everything, the overall communication process is called as organizational communication. Then I think mass communication. This we all very know. We usually know, like see or experience. So it means of conveying messages to an entire populace. Now this usually doesn't happen in an organization unless and until, no, there is an annual body meeting going on, and, no, like there is a get together happening between the top management and the other workers, no, in the organ or other employees in the organization, and the leader of the organization, the CEO or a president or whatever, or the founder of the organization, so wants to know, like convey a message to all the employees by calling them, everyone know, like gathering them in one place and then communicating. So there the mass communication happens. So that may be, like a celebrating the organization's success, like say after 25 years or 50 years of success, or no, they have merged up with, like a bigger company or a bigger organization, or they have, like got recently, like they have received a great, I mean, high, the great profit. So their profits have become so high, the last turnover. So there may be many reasons, why a mass communication is happening in the organization. So this is generally identified with tools of modern mass media, which includes books, press, cinema, television, radio. So these are the examples. It also includes speeches delivered by leaders to a large audience. Now, coming to the barriers of communication, there are main four types of barriers. The first one is the fear of judgment. So, fear of judgment. So, fear of judgment is the fear of being judged. So, fear of judgment is the fear of being judged. So, fear of judgment is the fear of being judged. So, fear of judgment is the fear of being judged. So, So physical barriers, psychological barriers, semantic blocks, and organizational barriers. Now, what is now like a barrier? When there is a problem which might cause our communication to be distorted or problematic, then that is called as barrier. So let's see one by one. First is the physical barrier. So when it happens is when the receiver and the sender are not physically like present in one place. Or even if they are physically present in one place, so some kind of distortion is happening in the communication. The first reason being the distance. Communication is found obstructed in long distance, like between, like America and Philippines, a telephonic conversation between America and Philippines. So obviously, there is a distance problem. So the voice will not be clear. There would be a network issue or whatever it is. And then noise. It is from the external sources and affects the communication process. It negatively affects the accuracy of the information. Then psychological barriers, perception. That is not like how you perceive things, how you receive things. It is the process of accepting and interpreting the information by the receiver, and people receive things differently for various number of reasons. And then is filtering. So filtering is not like sometimes knowingly or unknowingly. So we filter valuable information and not dispose it off. So knowingly, if you're doing it, it means like you don't want to have that information. You don't like to have that information. But unknowingly, if you're doing it, it means no, you lack concentration. So filtering is another psychological factor. And the third one is emotions. Emotions also create barriers to effective communication, like anger, hate, mistrust, and jealousy. So the speaker, if the receiver is like so angry on the speaker, or have jealousy on the speaker, or have a mistrust or hate against the speaker. So obviously, whatever the speaker is like communicating, the receiver won't get the message completely. So that will like become a distraction, in the communication. So emotions also play a very important part. And then is viewpoint. So it also creates barriers to effective communication. The receiver doesn't clear the message and ignore without hearing, and the message may create obstructions. And last one is defensiveness. So the receiver receives the message as threat and interprets that message in the same way. It creates barriers to effective communication. Actually, the sender maybe, that is the communicator, maybe communicating in a good way or in a very like subtle way, but it can be received as a like a threatening message by the receiver, and this receiver again reverts back in the same way. That becomes like a barrier to an effective communication. Someone hasn't muted. Check. Okay, Mr. Mohammed Maideen, please mute your audio. Okay. Then the third one is semantic barriers. That is language and the jargon. So language we very well know. So you have to speak in a language where the receivers can understand everything. So if you're speaking in a very different language, which the receiver is not able to understand or doesn't know the language, or only know very, like hardly know few words in that particular language, and it is very difficult for the receiver to receive the informations completely. So the use of difficult and multiple use of languages, words, figures, symbols create semantic barriers. And then jargons. Jargon is like unfamiliar language or unfamiliar words, like a high vocabulary words, So that also will become a barrier to the communication. So you have to understand, so to which group or what type of individual you're communicating with, their educational background, their perception and everything, their level, their role in the organization. And considering all these, you have to use the language and you have to use the words appropriately so that the communication becomes very effective. And next one is organizational barriers. I mean, overall, totally organizational barriers. The first one is poor planning. Without prior planning, you're just communicating, starting the communication with the other person. So, referring to the designing, encoding, channel selection, and conflicting signals in the organization. And then is structure complexities. There is there is a structure, so you don't know to whom you are going to report to. So you have no two or three superiors above you, and you are not very sure about to whom you are going to communicate. What do you want to communicate? So in that case, there is a structure complexity. All three have they hold the same position, almost the same position, the same designation. So all three are somewhat equal in the organization, but as a a sender, you don't know to whom to give the priority because of the structure complexity. Then status differences. Superior provides information to the subordinates about plans, and different information is provided by different subordinates who create barrier in the communication. So there is a status differences, and that also acts as a barrier. Then organizational distance between the sender and the receiver, and information overload. Yes. So if there is if precise communication is not happening, then there is a overload of communication. So it's like beating around the bush, not coming to the point. So if superior provides too much information to subordinate in short period, the receiver suffers from information overload, which creates barriers. And then finally, timing. That is, communication can be obstructed if the information is not provided in time. So lastly, we are going to see about the SMCR model. So SMCR stands for source, message, source or sender, message, and C for channel, and R for receiver. So this model was originally, it was developed by Claude Shannon and Warren Weaver, and then finally it was altered by David Berlow. But the latest credit has been given to Wilbur Schramm for his interactive interpretation. So let's see what is SMCR model. So this is the source, and with all these attributes, it is with the communication skills, with the attitude, knowledge, social system, and culture. So with all these attributes and factors, the sender encodes the message. And this message has content elements, it has a treatment, there is a structure to this message, and there is a code in this message. And this message is transmitted through a channel. So this channel can be hearing, seeing, touching, smelling, and tasting. So finally it then decodes to the receiver. It's being decoded to the receiver, and this receiver gets all the information which is from the source. So communication skill, yes, it is received. Attitudes, yes, received. Knowledge, yes, it is received. The social system, yes, understood. And finally, the culture, yes, received and understood. So this is the Berlow's SMCR model, but it does have some limitations as well. And then the second one is Shannon Weaver's model of communication. So here the information of source is transmitted, and then let's see how it is done. So the sender sends a message that is being transmitting the message, that is through the encoder, and then through a channel. Sometimes in the channel it can be distorted by noise, through noise. So and then if there is no noise here, then there will not be a problem. So through the channel it directly goes to the receiver by decoding the information. So reception, decoder, and finally it reaches a destination where the receiver is present. So sender encodes the message through a channel, and it is being decoded by the receiver. And if this channel is not being disturbed by any noise, then there is no distortion happening. So the information being passed to the receiver in a right manner. But if there is a noise or distortion in the channel, then the information is not completely passed or transferred to the receiver. That's what that would be a miscommunication, misinterpretation, half communication will be received, and no, like the communication itself may be perceived in a very wrong way. So we have come to the end of the session. So if you have any doubts, you can stay and ask. I'll be here for 2 minutes, or you can leave the session. We will meet next week.